friends. I wanted to share with you that over the weekend, Sky got to visit a fairy garden. Do you see these fairies in the garden? And their little homes? Yeah, I see some signs for the front gate and the botanical gardens. There's a little hedgehog. There's a little well. There's little welcome signs. Yeah, oh, a little owl. Sky was so fascinated, and he got to see all these little homes. He even got to see this turtle and baby turtle in the fairy garden. And the most exciting part was that Sky got to listen to a story. Yep, Pinkalicious and the Flower Fairy. Would you like me to read it to you too? Okay. Pinkalicious and the Flower Fairy, written by Victoria Karr. I want a flower fairy to visit my garden, I said to my brother Peter. I want a worm to visit my garden, Peter said. Yuck, I said. I sprinkled seeds over the garden. Flower fairies love pink flowers, I said. Worms love mud, Peter said. I raked and watered my garden. Vroom, Peter yelled. I worked hard on my garden. After 2 weeks, my seeds sprouted. There were little leaves, but no flowers. The next day, it rained and rained. It rained for weeks. When the sun finally came out, I ran outside to see my garden. Now, all my plants will bloom. There was a lot of green. Where's all the pink, I wondered. Zoom, Peter said. He drove his truck through his garden. He made his roads with his shovel. Calling all worms, he said. Take a ride on my racetrack. I had an idea. I needed to show my flowers how to grow. I made tissue paper flowers and put them in my garden. Calling all flowers, I said. Bloom like these paper flowers. I waited all day, but nothing happened. How would I ever see a flower fairy without any real flowers? I was too sad to garden. The next day, Peter yelled, Guess what? Guess what I saw? Hint, it was pink. A flower fairy? No, you didn't. Did you? I gasped. A pink flower fairy. Why didn't she visit me? I said. My garden is better, Peter said proudly. It looked at his garden, and I looked at mine. Peter was right. I had to do something. I'm going to pinkify my garden, I told Peter. Then the fairy will want to visit me. Molly came over to help. We strung sparkly pink lights and shiny pink streamers. We added a pink parasol and set out pink fairy cakes. My garden was a pink wonderland. I put on music, and Molly and I decided like fairies. It was very loud, very fun, and very pink. Still, the fairy didn't come, and all we saw was a wiggly pink worm. My mom looked at the door. It's time to clean up, she said. We began packing my pink belongings. Soon, my garden was plain again. It was time for Molly to go home. We didn't see a fairy, I said. Molly gave me a hug. Don't be sad, she said. I sat down in the grass. A big weed tickled my foot. I pulled it out. Behind it was a pink flower. I pulled out more weeds. I couldn't believe it. My garden was beautiful. There were flowers hidden among the weeds all along. I smelled a fragrant pink flower. Hello, said a little voice. I was nose to nose with a fairy. She was pink and shimmery. She had flower-petaled wings. I'm very glad you cleaned up your garden, she said. Now I have room to fly. Your garden is pink perfection, said the fairy. There's just one thing that will make it better. I knew exactly what that was. Fairy magic, I cheered. The fairy fluttered her wings. Sparkles rained down. More flowers grew and bloomed, making a beautiful arch. Wow, Peter and I said. It was flower-tastic. The end. Did you enjoy that story just like Sky did? He loved this trip to the fairy garden. And maybe you would like to make your own fairy garden. If you have a backyard with a garden, you can do that. But if not, you can always use a tub like the one shown in this picture, or maybe a flower pot. That would be a good idea too. So go ahead and get creative.